This is the biggest interview of my life, besides everything. I'm Zach, a resident here at Baby Chuba, alcoholic and addict, and grateful human being here on planet in Los Angeles. I was born in Santa Cruz. I grew up in Northern Cali most of my life, so it was the young California love in the 80s that produced me, all right? And they met no apparent reason besides my dad being a rock star at the time, my mom loving rock and roll. So that made me, so I'm a love child. I grew up moving around a lot. My parents weren't married. They didn't have jobs. They just kind of were hanging out, you know. And I grew up in that chill environment too. My grandma actually took care of me most of the time. My parents were like the black sheeps of both their families, and this affected me throughout my entire childhood. And it was like I was almost doomed to become some kind of non-conforming, anti-authority, you know, rageaholic. And what happened is I was 4, we were living in Talent, Oregon. And this is the first, I think, traumatic thing that happened to me. One day I go home and my dad's gone. And I remember having this like repeating nightmare about that happening, which I forgot about, weirdly enough, until I got sober. And I think I suppressed a lot of things from my childhood. So after that trauma, one, dad leaving first time, I started having all these medical issues. So when I was 7, my appendix burst. When I was 8, I was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And then at 9, ALL leukemia. So I was just riddled with cancer. My parents couldn't handle what it was doing to us financially, what it was doing to the family. It was forcing us to have to go back and forth. I ended up having to move in and stay at the hospital. And this is where I think the real basis of the trauma starts to go. Because being 8 years old and introduced to morphine, I remember fucking loving it. My nurse came in to the room and she said, "Oh, what's going on?" And I was feeling all right. You know, I got doses that morning and I faked a stomach ache. I was like, "Oh, my stomach hurts." And I kind of knew from what the doctors were talking about, like what the names of certain things were. And the nurse was like, "Oh, you have a stomach ache? Let me go get you some ibuprofen." And I grab her by the wrist and I go, "No, I want morphine." And my dad turns and looks at me with a big smile on his face and goes, "Uh-oh." And just remembering that solidifies the connection it makes for me to actually understand the beginning of this process. Not just because opiates are addictive, but because how it played a role in my life as a teenager. This is kind of where like my social anxiety starts to kick in, because I miss out on all this really important part of growing up. And I don't know how to fit in with anybody. I turned to the only thing that I knew and grew up with, which was rock and roll. And what came with rock and roll was drugs and sex. So I found that as quick as I could. By the time I was 14, I was already drinking full time, smoking weed, and it really started with alcohol. I didn't find my way back to opiates quickly, but I did. And I say this quite often. I only got drunk once, but it was for 17 years. Getting into the music scene was like a dream come true, except for the work that came with it. Everybody wants to be in a fucking band until they're in one. And it was 10 years straight of just the gnarliest, no glamorous, nothing glamorous, just the underground punk puke, pissing in jugs, sleeping on the floor, shot out, crack, whatever it was. It was just gnarly forever. And something changed. I got a little bit of an upgrade from that gutter punk lifestyle, because I was touring from like 18 to 21 with like those gutter kids. I met some gentlemen who introduced me to the beautiful and lovely and very benevolent cocaine. And cocaine just right away was amazing. It's just debauchery, drugs, alcohol, sex, rock and roll all the time. And the things of the band started to fade off because you can't rely on punk rockers. And my mom, you know, God bless her heart, I was the oldest and I was too much for her. You know what I mean? And she kicked me out. And I never resented her for that. I totally understood. I would have kicked me out too. I mean, I was a fucking hurricane. Criminal activity in the one lovely world of organized crime. When I say organized crime, I mean cartel. I'm talking drug running, international operation. I'm talking on the docks, fucking submarines and shit. I'm talking like shit out of a movie, dude. My best friend in the world, who was just an observer for all of this, for me, started the music. He didn't play music, but he watched me start the band. He did drugs, but he didn't sell them, and he's a really grounded dude. Probably the best person I've ever met, and still inspires me today. And but he passed away, unfortunately. But he told me, he's like, dude, you gotta figure out a way to get out of this. So I ended up going to community college, getting my GED and going to community college to just try to like create a routine where I wasn't sitting in the trap house. I was cooking dinner for this dude. So like, I'm scared of this dude. He's a gnarly guy, but he's my fucking friend. We're friends. He still cares about me now, you know? Even though I don't talk to him anymore, I know he hopes I do well. Because I earned being able to leave Oregon to come to Beit-Shuva. I earned that shit. I worked hard to get out of there, you know. It's December 30th, 2022. My best friend of my entire life passed away from an overdose. And we weren't talking at the time. Because you always think, you know, we can make up later. I started self-sabotaging and just self-deprecating to a level that most of us know. Just gave up. After that, my dad died, and I was separated from for so long, you know, didn't really get the chance to gain a connection with him again. Started to when I was like 18, but I was so busy with everything in my life, all these crazy things I was doing. I heard about Beit-Shuva from a close friend of mine 2 years ago who came over and was like, dude, you're messed up. You need some help. You seriously need some God. She came early on, like early 2000s. She was young. Is it divine intervention, or am I just the luckiest person in the world? I know exactly how I came in those front steps, and I'm never gonna forget that. And I won't forget the damage that drugs and alcohol have done to my life. And I was making the choice. I'm choosing to see all this suffering that I've had to endure as a blessing, so I can carry the weight of the heartache and pain of other people and maybe save somebody. I took every opportunity I had to not miss anything. I showed up. Even when I was detoxing, I showed up to group. I didn't complain about it. I had a hard time asking for help. I always have. But when I finally did, that's when I think I really started to land. It has been something of a divine experience, stepping into a place that has everything that I was involved with before, in recognition with what my dream was. Play music, to be involved with movies, to help people. Not only has Beit-Shuva given me the space to save my own life, it's given me the chance to create a new life. It's given me every opportunity that I could ever need to be successful, and there's no place like it. Beit-Shuva's dope. Beit-Shuva's on fire. Beit-Shuva's sick. Beit-Shuva's got the light. You'll find the light in the night. Beit-Shuva's ready. Beit-Shuva's willing. Beit-Shuva will help you do whatever. Beit-Shuva's gonna get you dancing. Beit-Shuva's gonna help you sing. Beit-Shuva's gonna rock and roll you, dude. Beit-Shuva is the house of return. The return to yourself, your true self, your higher self. And you're gonna find your passion, discover your purpose, and there's gonna be God waiting at the end to show you that he's been there the whole time. Bechuva's Bechuva is Bechuva. Fuck yeah, Bechuva.